just under 2 weeks until I start my Pacific Crest Trail thru hike. So let's talk about all the things that I have done and still have to do in order to get ready to start that thru hike. The preparation for this 2,700-ish mile hike has not been easy, but I think things are about to get a lot simpler as soon as I get on the trail. So let's talk about it and what it takes to get ready. By the way, I'm back in my hometown in Western New York right now. Notice the glacial erratics around. Those are huge boulders left behind by glaciers many moons ago. They're all over the woods here. First things first, let's talk about money, because I know that has been the biggest thing on my mind as I prepare for this thru hike. I have honestly been preparing since the AT to get ready for my next hike. And largely for me, what that has meant is getting myself on a better track financially. So I was pretty flat broke when I got off the AT, and that did not feel great. And I vowed to myself that I would never put myself in that position again. And a lot of that just had to do with where I was at that time in my life. I had been living in Washington, D.C. for several years, which is an extremely expensive city, working for jobs that didn't pay me a whole lot. I mean, I still work at a nonprofit, so don't get me wrong, I'm still not rolling in the dough. But I have improved that aspect of my life. And I've also been doing side gigs for the past few years, just trying to get myself in a better financial position and also to save for this hike.
Believe it or not, they say that a typical PCT thru hike now costs $10,000 on average, and that doesn't even include your normal bills.
Over the last 2 years, I lived with a roommate. I was actually kind of forced out of my old apartment, which I loved so much. And a sewage main broke in the building, and let's just say that my apartment was not in the best shape for the 2 months after that, and then I decided to move. I think that the universe was really on my side in that I went to a coffee shop right after it happened, ran into my friend Sharon, told her what happened. I was in such a tizzy over it, obviously. And she immediately was like, oh, well, come move in with me. I'm in a 2-bedroom apartment. I have realized I don't like to live alone, and I would love to have a roommate again. I have an extra room. So after waiting for my apartment to get fixed, 2 months later, I was still homeless. And so I was like, hey, Sharon, you still got that room available? Ended up moving in with her, becoming really good friends, and saving a bunch of money because of it over the last 2 years, which has been awesome. Aside from that, I've been working side gigs. I've been pet sitting a lot over the last few years. I like to say I have more dog friends than human friends in Boulder where I live. Which is probably not true. I have a lot of human friends too, but that's been an absolute delight. I love dogs, and I'm not in a place in my life where I'm ready to have my own. So that scratches that itch and makes me some extra cash, which I use to travel and save up for a thru hike. So that's been awesome. And I made a little bit of money online. Of course, my YouTube channel is monetized. I don't make much. I make like $100 a month, but hey, every little bit helps. I've written a book about my AT experience. It's called Where the Rhododendrons Bloom. You can find it on Amazon. So I make a little bit of money from that. And I've had other various side gigs here and there, being a brand ambassador, working in movie screenings, things like that. So money has been the thing I've been thinking about the longest in terms of a next thru hike. Next up, health insurance. So I am taking a leave of absence from my job. So that means that I am going to be losing my health insurance. I have it through May. If I want to keep it beyond that, I would have to pay the entire premium, which would be about $800 a month. That's a pretty big chunk of change for me. So instead, what I'm going to do is use travel insurance. I did a lot of research on travel insurance companies, and something important that I learned about travel insurance, which includes emergency medical, is that many of these companies consider hiking with an ice axe and micro spikes to be mountaineering, and many normal travel insurances don't cover that. So I did a ton of research on different travel insurance companies and plans, and the best one that I came up with is a plan through World Nomads. I believe I got the Explorer plan. I'll put a link to that down in the show notes in case you're interested. But this covers hiking over like a normal elevation that you would hike at. So many travel insurances also don't cover hiking over a certain elevation. Often that's around 10,000 feet. So the plan that I got through World Nomads covers, at least, I don't remember exactly how high it covers, but it covers high enough that I will not be going over that elevation on the PCT. It also covers mountaineering. So it covers, even though I'm going to be carrying an ice axe and micro spikes in the Sierra, it does cover that. So if you are also getting travel insurance for your upcoming thru hike, whether this is like PCT or CDT maybe, just make sure that you are covered for mountaineering activities and high elevation activities. It was a little bit of a gut punch to see the price of the travel insurance when including those activities. It's definitely more expensive than typical travel insurance, but I would rather just have it and know that I'm covered if something happens. So I paid about $1,000 for the 6 months that I expect to be out on the PCT. And again, that's not gonna cover like normal medical things. Like if I had to go to the doctor for like strep throat or something, it's not gonna cover that. But it is gonna cover a medical emergency if something were to happen to me. I don't wanna say any emergencies that could happen to jinx myself, but you could just use your imagination what those could be, and that should be covered. If you're doing a big hike this year and you're doing something else for health insurance, I'm curious what you're doing. So let me know down in the comments. Next up, if you watch my channel regularly, then you know that I live in Colorado. So what am I doing in New York? Well, my family lives here. This is where I'm from. And I don't own my own place. I'm a renter. So I have moved out of my apartment in Boulder. And I could have just gone from there to the PCT, of course. But because I'm a renter, and I've given up my apartment, I didn't really have anything to do with my car. I didn't want to have to pay to put it in storage for the whole time that I'm gone. And Colorado is pretty known for auto theft and things like that. So I didn't want to leave my car at risk. I also didn't want to put the burden of watching it on some of my friends in Colorado. So I decided to put that burden on my dad because that's what dads are for, right? So I have driven across the country from Colorado to New York after I finished putting all my stuff into storage. I got to drive to New York today. I'm leaving. I'm just finished packing up at my last dog sitting gig. So my last week in Colorado, I've actually not even been home. By the way, does anybody else always wear black every time you travel?
Hello from the plains.
Made it to my first stop. I am somewhere in Nebraska. My drive in total is going to be about 22 hours, so about 3 hours down. Oh, hi. I've stopped for the night in Altoona, Iowa.
Staying at the Super 8, not bad.
Look at that, Adventureland. We got a casino, we got a movie theater over here. And now I'm here for a few days before I head out to California. And I also have a random family trip in the middle of that, which I think I'm going to make another video on because it's interesting. I think people here will be interested. So stay tuned for that. But anyway, I'm just hanging out, seeing my family, working remotely my last couple of weeks, and leaving my car and some of my belongings here while I head out to the PCT. Another mistake that I made on my AT thru hike, aside from maybe not saving up as much money as I should have ahead of time, was that I went into the trail not being in very good physical shape. Now, granted, I live a pretty active lifestyle. I've always been pretty active, but the winter before the AT, I remember I got really sick a couple of times, and that really took me out from my normal routines. And by the time I got to the AT, I just wasn't in very good shape at all. I struggle with winter. I have seasonal affective disorder, so I get really, really sleepy in the winter, even in beautiful sunny Colorado. So it's a lot harder for me to stay in shape during winter than it is for me the rest of the year when I'm just chomping at the bit to get out hiking and doing all the fun Colorado activities, which did happen somewhat this year. But I have really tried to counter that over the last few weeks and try to get in some sort of shape before I get out to the PCT. I know that you can get in shape on the trail, but I feel like it's better for injury prevention. And also just, I want to be having fun when I get out there. I don't want it to be immediately a suffer fest, which it was on the AT. I mean, I immediately was having fun on the AT, but I also suffered. I remember being like, I'll get my trail legs in 4 to 6 weeks. Everyone says they'll show up in 4 to 6 weeks. And I was just counting down the days until my trail legs came in. So this year, I was like, okay, I really need to get my butt in gear and do some stuff before I get out there to try to make it easier on myself. So I haven't been doing a lot of hiking, though now that I'm in New York, I have really easy access to it, so I am hiking. It's like easy hiking though, it's pretty flat here. It's like little tiny hills. But in the lead up, I've also been doing my favorite high intensity interval training workout videos, which are Shaun T's Insanity Max 30. They're my favorite workouts. I go back to them over and over and over. I've done the entire program several times over the years, and they're just really intense, like 33-minute workouts where you do a ton of different jumping things. It's a lot of cardio, but it's also a lot of squats and lunges. And I always feel like when I'm doing those videos, my entire body gets stronger. My cardio fitness just explodes. It gets so much better so quickly. And I also feel like because there are like jumping activities and things like that, I feel like my feet get a lot stronger. So obviously, your feet getting stronger is huge for backpacking and thru hiking, right? So I'm hoping that I will reap the benefits of doing those workouts. So I've been doing those a few times a week for the past several weeks. I've been doing a plyo workout, which is like Pilates yoga, 1 to 2 times a week, and power yoga occasionally, and rock climbing occasionally, and going on a lot of walks. I wish I had done more hiking in the lead up, but I've just been so busy with other things, work and dog sitting and moving and all of that, that it just hasn't happened. But here we are hiking now. So in addition to those workouts, I've been having some issues with my ankles over the past couple of years with them being unstable. So I've been rolling my ankles, and one time I did it and I was having issues for like 6 months after that. So anyway, I've been also doing specific exercises to try to strengthen my ankles.
For example, I'm using a wobble board to practice balancing on both feet. Of course, I'm going to be terrible at it since I know you're watching.
Okay, let's move on to the things that I still need to do to prepare. I've also, of course, been dialing in my gear. I haven't done like a shakedown hike, which I always recommend people do before a big hike to make sure all your gear works for you, because I've pretty much been dialing in my gear over the last few years, and most of my gear isn't like totally new for the PCT. So for example, I use a Gossamer Gear Mariposa backpack. I have been using that model of backpack for several years now. I did have to get a new one last summer because my old one was like splitting apart and it was just done. I was afraid it was going to explode on a hike or on a plane or something, so I figured it was time to get a new one. But I got that last summer, so I was able to take it out on a hike last summer.
Action.
I did, however, recently get a new tent over like during the Christmas sales. It's pretty much the same as my old tent. I was using a Z-Pack's Plexamid, but I was having some issues with the zipper not working the way it was supposed to anymore, and also some little micro tears in the fabric. I could have probably kept using it for this hike, but I just didn't trust that it was gonna last. So when the Black Friday and Christmas sales were going on, I decided to finally bite the bullet and get a new tent. I got a Z-Pack's Plex Solo Light, I believe it is called, which is pretty much the same as the old one, just a little bit lighter and some like little tweaks here and there. I haven't set it up yet though, so I really still need to set it up and make sure everything is good to go, just out of an abundance of caution. I probably won't sleep in it until I get out to the PCT, but I think that's fine because it is pretty much the same tent I've been using. But little things like that I need to do, and I also need to pack up all my gear and get it all together. I got a few things for Christmas, so some of those things were in New York. I just left them here knowing I was going to come back. Most of my stuff was in Colorado. I've now brought it with me, so now I need to put everything together and organize it, and also make sure I have all the foods that I want to bring out for the first part of the trail and get everything organized basically. I am definitely going to share a gear video. I haven't done so yet just because I didn't have all of my gear together, but stay tuned for that. I know people are interested in the gear that I'm bringing with me, and I will be making that video pretty soon. Oh, but speaking of gear, I learned a very important lesson on the Foothills Trail a few years ago, and that is that you always need to test your water filter before you get out on the trail. So yesterday I tested my water filter. I used a Sawyer squeeze. Lo and behold, it was backed up as heck and I couldn't get any water to go through it. So I've got another one on the way. So let this be a lesson to all of you. Always test your water filter before you go on a backpacking trip. Another thing that I still need to do is get a box ready to send out to Kennedy Meadows South. So I'm not really planning to send out many resupply boxes, and that's the only one that I'm going to get ready to send out from the beginning. But once you enter the Sierra, it's really important that you have an ice axe for safety reasons, and also you need a bear can from that point. I'm not planning to carry a bear can except when I absolutely have to, because I just hate carrying one. They're bulky, they're heavy, they're tough to deal with. But I do understand the need to use them in the Sierra if bears are a problem there. You know, obviously I'm very pro protecting bears. So anyway, all that to say, I need to send a box to Kennedy Meadows South with my ice axe, my bear can, and then I'll definitely put some food, like resupply items in there too. And I'm gonna put the box together and get it all ready and ask my parents to send it out a couple of weeks before I'll get to Kennedy Meadows South. So that's something I still need to do. And finally, of course, I'm gonna actually have to get myself out to California and get to the trail. So stay tuned for all that, but I'll be flying from Buffalo out to San Diego in just about a week and a half. I'm planning to spend probably a day and a half in San Diego with my friend Pika, who's just coming out for the weekend to send me off, basically. So there will be some fun times had by all, and by all I mean me and Pika at that time. And then I'm going to be hitching a ride with a famous trail angel out in the San Diego area. So stay tuned. Hopefully you'll get to meet her through my videos. Hopefully I didn't forget anything, but I do think that's the main stuff. Thanks for being here, you guys. I can't wait to get out on the PCT. It's gonna be here before I know it, and I hope that you all will follow along with my journey. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. There are some ways to support my hike down in the show notes, and I'll talk to you really soon.